On this episode, we visit Hawaii. We learn about Kauai Path, a trails organization on the island of Kauai. Kauai Path does education and outreach in addition to building trails. Finally, we meet one of the founders of the Red Hot Ladies bicycling group in Honolulu. Stay tuned.
We're talking with Tommy Noyes, who's secretary of Kauai Path. What is Kauai Path?
Kauai Path is a nonprofit organization focused on making Kauai more walkable and bikeable for everybody.
Where are we standing?
We're standing this morning on Kealahele Makalai. That's Hawaiian for the path that goes by the coast. It's a multi-use path, walking and bicycling, that connects Lihue and Anahola in plan. Right now, we're connecting Kapa'a Town, the coast along the area here, and down into a major park, Lidgate Park, that's just a bit south of us across the Wailua River.
How did the idea for this path get started?
Kauai is an island. We value our access to the coast greatly. We want to make sure that coastal assets are available for everybody in perpetuity. And one very good way to secure public access along the length of the coast is by developing a coastal pathway, and that secures it legally in perpetuity for public access.
So the ports that have been built, who was involved? What did it take to get the first ports built?
This project is a big enough scope so that it's been segmented into 6 different portions. The first portion is south of where we are now in Lidgate Park, a regional park, and volunteers came together and over a month and a half constructed a facility in the park called the Kamalani Kai Bridge. It's a wooden construct. It took about 5,000 volunteers working to build this structure. Each hour of volunteer labor was tracked and used as a match for federal travel enhancement funds. So federal money was used from the Highway Administration, conveyed through the Hawaii State Department of Transportation down to the county level, and covered the cost of $2.5 million to build that first segment of pathway in Lidgate Park. Subsequently, a land grant was arranged between a local developer and the county of Kauai that brought another $7 million approximately into the mix. It was used as a soft match again for federal highway enhancement funds, and we're working now with that money coming down through the Hawaii State Department of Transportation to the county of Kauai, who is responsible for contracting out the various construction phases of the path project.
What sort of complications are there putting a path along a coast in a place like Hawaii?
There are numerous factors to take into consideration. Cultural concerns come up. Is the use consistent with traditional uses of the area? Are there burial sites that need to be taken into account and treated appropriately? Are there coastal issues like erosion, storm surge when you're building a facility along the coast? We've been very aware of the need to keep the coast from being armored, which is a step considered to exacerbate coastal erosion. So That's a factor that comes in. There's an extensive environmental process that any path system here in Hawaii needs to go through, involving some 70 approving agencies, everything from wildlife to culture to drainage. It's an extensive process, lengthy process involving lots of community input, and eventually you can work through that process and get to the point where we now have this facility that encourages good health, gets people out of their cars, using their bicycles and walking to get around in their communities. And that relieves the motor vehicle traffic on the highways, and that's one of the benefits that we're looking at: better health and less congestion on the highways.
Parts that have been completed, what's the public's reaction been to them?
There was recently a poll conducted by the Garden Island newspaper, our main daily publication here on the island, and the question was, do you support expansion of the path system, Kealahele Makalai? And about 62% of the respondents absolutely endorsed spending additional funds to expand the path system. A little under 20% were undecided, a little under 20% were opposed. So we consider that to be a strong mandate to move forward with investing in these active transportation systems.
And the places where, you have places where it's been completed, places where it's planned. Do you hear from people elsewhere on the island saying, what about me? Are we going to get a trail?
Absolutely. This is the east side of the island where the project is focused to cover about 18 miles of the coastline connecting communities. We're currently working to plan systems on the north side of the island, the south side, and the west side of the island, connecting communities, and simultaneously working with the Department of Transportation to assure that as highways are developed and updated, bicycling accommodations are in place to make it safer for cyclists to get the long distances between our rural communities. And then when you're in the communities themselves, it should be walkable, it should be bikeable, it should be conducive to using public transportation. And all of these things will relieve the pressure on the highways and improve public health. That's our belief, that an active population is healthier and more socially connected. Walking and bicycling gives people opportunities to connect with their neighbors in ways that are not available when you're driving from one spot to the next as your sole means of moving about in your community.
So, in addition to the benefits to the communities the trails pass through, do you find much interest in the trails from tourists and the tourism industry?
We get very positive feedback from visitors who come here. They enjoy being along the coast, seeing the whales, the dolphins, turtles, monk seals, the seascapes. There's a natural attraction to water features that draws people whenever they have the opportunity to spend time along the coast. This facility was consciously built to open up pathways along the coast, make that coast accessible to people, and it's been highly successful. It's a real attractor. It brings people back to this area for future visits while serving the resident population.
Anything you build nowadays has to be accessible because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Some people do it well, some people don't. How well are your trails doing for accessibility?
Accessibility has been a key design element in putting this project together. We find that not only do we benefit from having a facility that's wheelchair accessible, that's open for people that have sight impairment. It also encourages people that are getting started with physical activity that may have been told by their doctor, get out and exercise. Well, this is a way that they can gently move into a more active lifestyle, in addition to having facilities that people who are confined to a wheelchair can get exercise on in open spaces, enjoy the fresh air, enjoy the scenery in ways that they would not be able to otherwise. They can follow the needs of their daily routine, getting around on their own because of this accessible facility. Otherwise, they would be reliant on transportation through mobility vans or other motorized transport, as opposed to getting out on their own and being independent. So this is a real quality of life enhancement for people that rely on mobility assistance devices. Now they can move much more freely through their communities as a result of this.
We're talking with Randy Blake, who's president of Kauai Path. What does Kauai Path do when they aren't busy building paths?
Aloha and welcome to the island. We presently have some programs that we think are important besides building pathways, and one of them is bicycle education. There's been a trend away from bicycling and walking. We've done surveys and find that 80% of children nowadays are driven to school. So that's definitely a shift from back in the 50s and 60s, where a lot of children walked to school. So we're trying to get programs set up to get kids walking and biking back to school again. So we have invested in the equipment and get trained instructors available to go out into the school system and into the community and start having bicycle education for children, the keiki as we call them here, and the adults.
What sort of equipment does it take to teach a class of fourth graders?
Well, we wanted to make sure that it was equitable, so one of the things we did was we got a fleet of bicycles, and we've got over 40 bicycles. We also decided to get a cargo van so we can haul a classroom of bicycles to a school and then have those kids fitted properly with helmets and properly fitted for the bicycles, and then we can start building the fundamentals of their bike handling skills. Most bicycle crashes occur due to poor bicycle handling skills, so we figured that we needed to address that issue. The population that has the most crashes on bicycles are the elementary students. So our focus has been to look at the 4th and 5th graders to see if we can get their bike handling skills where they should be to get them safe.
So would these be crashes that don't involve anything else? They just involve you didn't control your bike properly?
That is entirely correct. Most of the time it's due to bike handling. They not properly steering, not learning how to shift properly, and those types of things. We even teach them basic things like riding in a straight line. It's very important if you're riding to be able to ride predictably and visibly. So part of being a predictable bike rider is to be able to ride in a straight line and look over your shoulder. You should try it sometime. Look over your shoulder and try to ride in a straight line. It's a very difficult skill to acquire, so we have to teach that at a young age.
And you have adult classes as well?
Yes.
What sort of skills are they lacking? I mean, do they also have trouble looking over their shoulder and keeping straight, or?
We have a very diverse population here on Kauai, so there's people from all different cultures. We have people that have been taught that they should ride on the end of traffic which in the United States and Europe, you want to ride with traffic. So we have a lot of adults that we see riding into traffic, so we're having to get them to go the other way. There's this misconception that a car is going to come up and get them from behind, which is a very rare accident.
So it's actually sort of the opposite advice you give to pedestrians on a road with no sidewalks, that where you walk against traffic. Cyclists, you stay on the right, go with traffic.
The concept is called vehicular cycling. So you treat your bicycles as if it were a car or a vehicle on the roadway. And that's how the laws are set up in the United States, for bicycles to be treated as vehicles. Bicycles are to stop at stop signs, signal, obey the lane directions, and those kind of things. So these are the things that we're trying to reinforce in the adult population, and then teach these basics to the children.
Okay. So once you've taught people how to bicycle correctly, do you have to reach drivers and talk to them about what they need to do?
Right. We have to educate the drivers to know that bicyclists are considered vehicles and they have a right to the roadway. That they don't. In some places, you're prohibited as a bicyclist to be riding on a sidewalk in business areas. It certainly creates a conflict between a bicyclist and a pedestrian. It's a lot easier, less of a conflict if you have bicyclists riding in the same direction as vehicular traffic on the roadways. So there's an educational component, and that's why we figured if we were going to be promoting bicycling and walking, we wanted to make sure that we put an educational component into it. We just didn't want to, we saw that as a void that was going to be created, that if we promoted and we had these facilities, that we needed to address the educational component also.
You mentioned earlier, children aren't walking or biking to school as much as they used to. Aside from getting the basic skills of being a safe bicyclist, safe pedestrian, what can we do to encourage more children to walk to school, or parents to allow their children to walk to school?
There are studies throughout the world that have demonstrated that kids that get a little bit of exercise do better in school. And if you're driven from your door to school, door to door, they don't get that exercise. The amount of physical exercise or physical education in schools is diminished as the focus has changed in the school system nationally. So if you think about it, if you really want your kids to succeed, you want them to walk and bike to school to get that bit of exercise. Once you do that little bit of exercise, it sets the mind up for better learning. And this has been validated study after study across the globe. So you want your children to do well in school, let them walk and bike to school.
And many parts of the world, a lot of schools participate in International Walk to School Day in October. Do folks on Kauai participate in that?
Yes, one of our partners is Get Fit Kauai, and Get Fit Kauai has been promoting safe routes to school, which is Walk to School Day. And in those schools that were having Walk to School Day, Kauai Path has been coming in and offering free bicycle education to the students. We've been getting an increase in class participations now that these programs have gotten their kind of basic start, and now they're starting to blossom.
What are you looking forward to in the future? I was to come back in a decade and check up on what you've been up to. What do you have in mind?
I would like to see more kids walking and biking to school, more adults making short trips by bicycle. I like to see our pass system not only just on the east side. I'd like to see further plans on the north side, and I'd like to see our plan on the west side connect two small communities over a 2.5 mile area. I'd love to see that in reality in 10 years from now.
We're talking with Patricia Johnson with Red Hot Ladies. What is Red Hot Ladies?
Red Hot Ladies is a riding group for women primarily over age of 50. We're a part of the Hawaii Bicycling League, and we're a riding group. Have over 150 women riding with us now.
How did your group get started?
I came back home to Hawaii, take care of my mom, and I had just started riding in California on my little hybrid, on my bicycle. And so I came here and my friend Dale, we just started riding. Someone put me together with another woman who was sick and tired of being left on the hill climbs and being the caboose at the end of rides, and she wanted to have great recreational rides but still be on the road. So someone put us together, and July of 2007 we had our first ride, 4 of us, and it's been history ever since.
How has the group grown since then, from just a couple of people at the beginning?
We have about 150 people. We have maybe 30 that ride regularly. We have it's just grown. We have a west side group that rides out on the west side. We have a beginners group that rides on Sundays. We have my group, the Roving Riders, and we ride all over the island. And then we do trainings for the Hawaii Bicycling League, Metric Century and Century Ride. So we know that we can take anybody who hasn't ridden and put them in our training program, and then at the end of the day they'll go, that wasn't so bad. I just did 100 miles in the first time in their life, and they're very proud of themselves, and they're not hurting, they're not dying. We had a great training ride. So, we've got a great reputation. A lot of great women and their husbands and friends. We have a lot of great guys that ride with us, and we also have people under 50 that ride with us. People have heard about the kinds of great rides that we do, and they want to go on those rides.
And when people think of bicyclists, sometimes you're thinking about, middle-aged men in spandex. What have you found to be the interest that women have in bicycling?
I think athleticism, and then the sociability, the friends, but these women love riding their bikes. For me, with taking care of my mom as a caregiver, it was a way for me to get out, to exercise, and really maintain my sanity, if you will. It's like the endorphins, and then I'd come back and be glad to be with my mom. I realized when I came back that I was depressed after about 6 months, and bicycling really helped a lot with that. But I think basically the things that we share in common is all of us love riding bicycles.
So how is Hawaii as a place to ride a bike?
It's wonderful. We have people do the Cycling 101, Cycling 201, the basics, fundamental skills. We have several people that are LCIs, and we ride in a group, and we really, really stress. I'm very tough about people riding safely. And so we haven't had any serious accidents in 7 years. And we just have a good reputation for fun rides and for being safe at all. We're safe first and foremost. So people know how to ride on the roads. So I feel perfectly fine riding on the roads, even by myself, but as we're riding in a group, it's much safer.
And when y'all are having fun and a good time, is there a serious side to bicycle organizations?
Yeah, we're very activist oriented. So we're work with Hawaii Bicycling League. We show up for all the major hearings. When Chad puts out a call that he needs people to show up, he always calls the Red Hot Ladies. We do for the rides. We do the packet pickups. We do the registration. So we're a strong group of volunteers. You can count on us. We're like kind of type A, old generation people who really get out and get the job done.
What do you see as the future for your group?
I think more leadership, diverse leadership. I'm 72, and I can't keep up now with some of the. I used to be able to be one of the strong hill climbers and could keep up, but not anymore. And so having good leadership, and just continue doing what we're doing, and then having really expanding membership. So we have an HBL. So we need numbers of people to be advocates, like a bicycling union, so that we're going to be getting more and more people on the road, and it's going to be more clashes with drivers. And so we need positive leaders who are able to stand up to that kind of opposition. We already have it with the bike track. People are like, whoa, they're taking away our lanes. We want to take more lanes and bike tracks, because a lot of people want to ride here, but they don't feel safe. mixing it up with cars. And I can get that, but I feel perfectly fine riding on the roads, and I'm not arrogant, I'm not aggressive. I like to be a good bike ambassador and shotgunning people and thanking them for, ceding the lane to me. Our drivers are polite. We don't have a lot of, and people don't drive so fast. They're just unconscious. They're just not educated about riding with bicyclists. So that's one of our jobs, to be good bike ambassadors.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.
Yeah, that's true.
And they seem to be later.
Okay.